Hey everybody, today we're going to teach you guys about the four main cycles of our world. These four cycles affect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. Let's get started. The first biogeochemical cycle we're going to talk about today is carbon. Carbon is in the air around us. It is then absorbed by plants, which process it in the process of photosynthesis. Consumers then come along and then eat the plants, and then re-release the carbon into the atmosphere or deposit it into the soil. There's a couple ways that humans speed up the carbon cycle. The first of which is emissions, and our emissions are at a higher level than they've ever been. The second of which is deforestation. When we remove photosynthesizing machines like trees and plant life, we begin to see the real devastating impacts of our emissions.
Phosphorus is an element that originates in the rock and soil of Earth's lithosphere. As rock breaks down, phosphate is slowly released into the Earth's water and soil, which is where plants begin to absorb the mineral. Once plants absorb phosphate, it begins to move from producers to consumers to decomposers, during which time phosphate is then reabsorbed by plants to start the cycle again. When looking at the phosphorus cycle, a unique characteristic is that it is not connected to the atmosphere, which limits the biosphere as a recycling mechanism if there becomes too much phosphorus in parts of the ecosystem. And looking at the nitrogen cycle, about 78% of nitrogen is contained in the atmosphere. A unique quality is that the bacteria in soil, water, and sediments perform many of the steps of the nitrogen cycle, helping to convert the nitrogen to a usable format for plants and organisms. When looking at the two biogeochemical cycles related to phosphorus and nitrogen, an important consideration to keep in mind is that they are both considered limiting factors. This means without these two elements, the ability for plants and organisms in the ecosystem to survive and thrive becomes compromised. And this plays an important role into how humans are impacting these two cycles. Humans are adding more nitrogen and phosphorus to the ecosystem than what nature has originally intended. And this is largely through our large-scale agricultural processes. Since phosphorus and nitrogen are limiting factors, we add these two elements to fertilizers to really enhance plant growth and increase our agricultural production. What happens though is that these two elements end up through water runoff polluting bodies of water. So bodies of water can become polluted once they receive too many nutrients in the water, specifically nitrogen and phosphorus. These two nutrients together cause eutrophication of bodies of water, which is essentially bodies of water that are depleted of oxygen and can no longer support plant life or animal life. Today we are in the Sinks Canyon Center, and behind us is a lake that we have in our park that supports a variety of wildlife. If this lake were to become eutrophic through an increase in nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, this lake would no longer be able to support the diverse habitat as well as the plant life in this area, creating a reduction in the biodiversity of ecosystems and habitats.
Most of the Earth's sulfur is found in rocks and minerals, even deep ocean sediments. Volcanic activity and the weathering of rocks sends sulfur into the atmosphere or the soil. When fossil fuels are burned and when mined metals are processed, sulfur also gets into the air. Sulfate can be absorbed by plants and microorganisms. In the air, SO2 or sulfur dioxide contributes to acid rain when it combines with water vapor forming sulfuric acid. Sulfates, when added to bodies of water as sulfur compounds fall from the atmosphere or from weathered rocks, they can be serious pollutants.
Now for the human impacts on the environment. Sulfur oxides that add to the atmosphere in addition to sulfates in the water. Soil and water sulfates levels are increased by human actions such as mining, factories, and the use of automobiles. Acid rain and water pollution are major effects from the human impact. A good example of this is heavily developed areas in the Everglades. The percentage of sulfates in the water is 60 times more than would be normally expected in the Everglades. Because of land development in the Everglades, this is the effect. What's behind me is the showing of water running over the rocks, which, you know, that's how sulfur can get into the water source and eventually evaporate and into the atmosphere.
After navigating through the 4 basic biogeochemical cycles related to carbon, phosphorus, nitrogen, and sulfur, the question remains on how can we reduce the amount of these elements that humans are adding to the ecosystem. It seems that all 4 cycles are impacted by how we choose to feed ourselves and where and how we choose to live. While solutions are both large and small, or local or global, each one of us can make choices about how we choose to live our day-to-day lives. And while striking a balance may feel like a tug-of-war of options at times, it is imperative to continue to challenge our current way of living and thinking if we want to protect the lands and waters on which all life depends.